bring aboard Akshay D'Souza, Chief of Growth and Insights at Bizom. Akshay, thank you so much for joining in with us this afternoon on ET Now. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. And Akshay, you shared some very interesting data points with us as well. And what I'm specifically seeing is in terms of on a month-on-month basis for some categories, whether I'm looking like home care, packaged food, they have managed to see a growth on month basis, and this is despite that overall excess inventory decline on a year-on-year basis. So this trend, has that seen a continuation now? What is it that you're picking up now also?
Very interesting that you pointed out, Vinny. I think you're absolutely right. I think there is excess inventory for sure. I think the products that got stocked in kiranas were beyond what consumption was happened for Diwali. That being said, there are obviously green shoots, and I think we're seeing the fact that some of these products continue to kind of fly off. So when you look at packaged food, for example, very strong growth in November despite that overstocking. It still means that out-of-home consumption is strong. And why do I say out-of-home consumption is strong? Because a lot of this growth, I think right now is also getting fueled from the smaller size packs. They are not the large size packs that actually are driving that growth. So I think that's where you're kind of seeing home care, packaged food kind of, actually packaged food is largely out of home consumption. Home care, well, I think it's still early to call anything to do with COVID as of now. But I think in due course, I think depending on how the current COVID wave moves up, I think there could be shifts in how the home care category kind of grows itself. Other than that, I think the fact remains that you're also seeing some of the seasonal shifts happening, and hence, so for example, in products like personal care, for example, while growth is lower, you are seeing winter products still getting on the shelves. So I think those are positive signs in terms of how product stocking is essentially happening. But the fact remains that the excess inventory needs to be liquidated before some of the other categories see growth for themselves in December and otherwise.
Right, Akshay. I just want to pick out the point that you were talking about smaller packs doing well, because I think during festive season, we had seen those large packs actually seeing more of the buying there. So this trend that we're seeing of smaller packs, is it across geographies, any specific region? And smaller packs is also across categories as well?
Yeah, so I think when you look at specifically, now I go down to November and I kind of compare year on year, we did see that, commodities was an outlier, right? I think commodities, and if you look at beverages, for example, you will see that commodities essentially had a lot of larger packs increase. Now, why does that happen, right? I think what typically tends to happen is a lot of Indian homes typically rely on a lot of sweets and savories. So you actually see, branded commodities, you see dairy products actually spike at this time. In fact, a lot of the dairy product companies also, occasionally, in fact, last year we saw a lot of stockouts also happening in that space. Now, while that happens, I think we see also a disproportionate consumption in those categories. But I would imagine that subsequent months will again get back to the smaller consumption packs for those products. So I think that's really the crux of where it was. Now, from a small pack standpoint, you typically would look at, say, for example, in categories like even packaged food, for example, an out-of-home pack. On-the-go pack typically is a smaller pack. It is not a large pack. Beverage, the single bottle sale or a single unit sale typically is on the go. Now you're actually seeing travel, both air, rail, as we kind of hit this year end or even during Diwali and post Diwali, a lot of movement within the city or between cities that kind of kept happening. And I think our travel numbers typically show that. And I think you are seeing that trend visible. And hence, that's where some of the small packs have kind of spiked.
Well, thank you for that, Akshay. This is Lisa joining in. What I wanted to know is about the rural growth ahead compared to urban growth. How are you seeing the rural picture forming? And the rural growth has been quite subdued, but the demand has seen some spike post the festive season?
Yeah, so rural typically, look, you're absolutely right. Rural has been the lever of growth for FMCG for the last few years, right? And I think the trend of some of the larger companies focusing on doing more direct distribution continues. While that being said, last 2 quarters really is where the rural growth has been seeing a bigger challenge, right? One thing that we've observed and seen from here is that in rural, people are still, while we've seen a lot of essential prices drop, especially edible oils saw like a sharp drop there. However, the bucket of consumption has not moved to a lot of discretionary in rural yet. That being said, I think when I look at the forecast for the next 3-4 months, I do think that a lot of other products, like I could see rice, I can see wheat, I can see sugar. All of this I can imagine, and I can see that already possibly dropping prices in domestic markets, simply because India has also gone for export bans, right, which are essentially to control prices, and that will kind of come good is what where I can see it happening. That being said, I think that extra income is possibly also going to shift to the discretionary side of products, and that's where I think that is what will fuel growth. The other pieces I'm also seeing as a big trend is that in personal care, I think that has actually taken a little bit of a hit in recent the last 1 or 2 quarters, and I'm actually seeing the prices drop. I'm seeing a lot of their products, be it shampoos, be it hair colors, and some of that showing a price drop. And now, while that happens, this is essentially to fuel growth, and I think fuel more value growth and even more bundled offers that kind of will come with it. So I think this typically indicates that I think there will be enough excessive income available for the rural consumer to spend on discretionary. And I do expect that with a stable environment, I think that will also get fueled in the next quarter.
Well, thank you for that, Akshay, for providing your view on the consumption and the FMCG outlook going forward. Thank you for your time on the show.